All right, today we've got a story about a plant that just completely breaks all the rules. We're talking about an orchid that basically thinks it's a cactus.
Okay, so let's try something. When you hear the word orchid, what do you picture? Seriously, what's the image that comes to mind? I'm going to guess it's something like this, right? You're probably imagining a beautiful, delicate flower. Maybe it's hanging off a tree in some humid, steamy rainforest. And look, for most of the 28,000 plus species of orchids out there, you'd be totally on the money.
Okay, but what if I told you that one of the toughest orchids in the entire world actually lives in the scorching hot desert? I know, it sounds completely wrong, like a plant that shouldn't exist, but it is 100% real.
So it's time to meet this incredible plant. Its name is Eulophia petersii. And the big question is, how in the world does an orchid manage to live somewhere that would kill pretty much all of its cousins? Well, it turns out it's got its own kind of cactus survival kit, perfectly designed for the job.
First off, let's talk about its pseudobulbs. Yeah, forget those delicate little stems you're picturing. These things are big, tough, succulent organs, really. The best way to think about them is like built-in water canteens. They just store up all the water they can find to get through those incredibly long dry periods.
All right, next up, the leaves. Now, rainforest orchids have these big, thin leaves, right? Not this one. This orchid has these thick, fleshy, waxy leaves. And here's where it gets really smart. When things get super dry, it just drops them, all of them. It goes completely bare to stop any water from escaping. I mean, it's a pretty extreme move, but it works.
But maybe the coolest trick of its sleeve is how it breathes. It uses this amazing process called photosynthesis. See, most plants, they open up their little pores during the day to breathe in carbon dioxide. But if you did that in the desert, you'd lose a ton of water and just die. So this orchid, it completely flips the script. It does all its breathing at night.
So here's the breakdown. When the sun goes down and it gets cooler, a little more humid, that's when it opens up its pores to grab all the CO2 it needs. Then, when the sun comes up and it's blazing hot, it seals itself up tight. It just uses the CO2 it's stored overnight to make its food. It's basically like it's holding its breath the entire day just to stay alive. How amazing is that?
Okay, so with all these wild desert survival skills, you might think, wow, this is just a super orchid. But here's the twist, the big paradox. If you took this super tough plant and put it in a rainforest, the place where all its relatives are perfectly happy, it would actually die. I mean, the differences couldn't be more extreme. The desert orchid, it's all about sun and dry air. A rainforest orchid needs that constant humidity, that shade. If you give Eulophia petersii too much water, its roots will literally rot. Meanwhile, the rainforest orchid needs that water to even survive. They are complete and total opposites. And this really gets to the heart of it. Everything that makes it a master of the desert, all those tools in its survival kit, the water storage, the special breathing, dropping its leaves, every single one of those things becomes a huge weakness in a damp, shady forest. They're not just adaptations, they're maladaptations in the wrong place. Which brings us to a really interesting question, right? If it looks like a cactus and acts like a cactus, why isn't it a cactus? Well, the answer is just one of the coolest things about evolution.
It's a concept called convergent evolution. And it's pretty simple, actually. It's what happens when nature gives two totally different species the exact same really tough problem to solve. Like, hey, figure out how to live in a desert with almost no water. And what's amazing is they come up with the same answers, completely on their own.
And when you put them side by side, it's just so clear. You've got the orchid and the cactus. They're from completely different plant families, grew up on totally different continents. And yet, just look at the list. Water storage and succulent parts? Check. That special night-breathing photosynthesis? Check. A clever leaf strategy to save water? Check. It's like evolution solved the exact same puzzle twice.
And that's really the bottom line here. This orchid is not related to a cactus. It's not some distant cousin. If you look at its flowers, its DNA, it is 100% an orchid. It just figured out the puzzle. It cracked the code for how to make a living in the desert. So, okay, this is a cool story, but why does it matter? Why should we care about this one weird orchid? Well, its incredible story of survival actually holds some really important lessons for us, especially right now as it starts to face some very new, very modern threats. You see, for all its toughness, this orchid is actually pretty vulnerable. Its home is disappearing because of cities and farms. Climate change is cranking up the heat, making a tough place even tougher. And because it's so unique, people try to collect it illegally. On top of all that, it just doesn't get the same kind of scientific attention as its more glamorous rainforest cousins.
And that's why we need to pay attention. This plant is so much more than just a weird novelty. It's like a living instruction manual for resilience. Locked away in its genes are the secrets to surviving in exactly the kind of dry, hot places that are becoming more and more common all over the world. So let's leave you with this final thought. We live on a planet that's getting hotter and drier. There's no denying that. And because of that, the story of this one little orchid is more important than it's ever been. It's this incredible symbol of how to adapt. And it makes you wonder, what other lessons can we learn from the orchid that decided the rainforest wasn't for it and chose the desert instead?